Hello, welcome to Conserving Your Entitlement, the best practices and advice on how to stretch your VA educational benefits. The abbreviated version, this is the third version of this video. The other two versions were way too long, but they do have more information, in particular how we came about getting some of these numbers and the reasoning behind them. This applies mostly to the post 9/11 GI Bill. However, this can also apply to Chapter 35 DEA or the Montgomery Chapter 30 GI Bills. If you want additional information, please refer to the other extended versions of the PowerPoints. Okay, so we start with the disclaimer. First off, this presentation is not formally approved by the VA or Long Beach City College, the college to which we belong to. They're just tips to assist you. These are best practices that our previous students have utilized. These are best practices in theory. Everyone is different. The information that we're going to provide is based upon the current population at Long Beach City College. For those of you viewing this who are not in Long Beach City College, Long Beach City is a suburb in the Los Angeles County. We have approximately 550 self-identified veterans at our college. Approximately 400 of those are using some form of VA educational benefits, and so we are utilizing their information to advise you on how to stretch your VA educational benefits as long as possible. Okay, so let's do some math. Now, whenever you get a certificate of eligibility noting your VA educational benefits, it usually says congratulations, you have X amount of months. But to be honest, months don't mean anything to community colleges, to CSUs, to UCs, to most private colleges. We don't gauge things in months. We gauge things in weeks. So here at Long Beach City College, for instance, our standard terms are 16 weeks long. We have a 4-week winter term. We have an 8-week summer term. So our one academic year for us is 44 weeks. So the question is, how many weeks does 36 months give you? Okay, so we're going to bust out some intermediate algebra here. Now, how many weeks does 36 months give you? We're also going to round. There are 30 days in 1 month, 7 days in 1 week. So if we were to multiply and divide this out appropriately, we would come out to 154 weeks and 2 days. Now, just to make the math simpler, we're going to lose those 2 days. So essentially, the 36 months that your VA educational benefits gives you is equal to 154 weeks. Okay, so what is the minimum number of units to be considered full-time students for one academic year? For a 16-week semester, it'd be 12 units. For a 4-week semester, it would be 3 units. For an 8-week semester, it would be 6 units. Now, at this point in time, when we did this calculations, winter was only 4 weeks long. Now it's 5 weeks long, so technically it'd be 4 units. But for the sake of the math and not having to do it again, we're going to say that you do 33 units per one academic year. That one extra unit, the fluctuation of that one extra unit won't affect our calculations that much. So if you're a full-time student, how long would it take for you to get an associate's degree or be transfer ready or just in general get a bachelor's degree? Now, as we discussed before, on average, the requirements in order to receive an associate's degree or be transfer ready is approximately 65 units depending upon your major. So, from what we learned, 65 units divided by 33 units, which is in one academic year. Again, we're just doing some intermediate algebra, equals 2 academic years to receive an associate's degree or be transfer ready. If you want to get a bachelor's degree, it would then be 3.64 academic years. So this is why we're doing all the math. This screen right here. All that math that we did was just to show you exactly how long it would take for you to do any of these things in comparison to what you have for your VA educational benefits. So, in order to obtain an associate's degree or be transfer ready, it would take you 2 academic years. Now, if one academic year is equal to 44 weeks, that means you would use 88 weeks of entitlement just to graduate with an associate's degree or to be transfer ready. On the other hand, or rather on the other grade, in order to graduate with a bachelor's degree, assuming that graduation with the bachelor's degree is 120 units, it would be 3.64 academic years. There's 44 weeks in one academic year, meaning that it would take 160 weeks in order to graduate with a bachelor's degree. 160 weeks of your entitlement would need to be used. So if you're a full-time student, how many weeks of your VA educational benefits will you have left after you get an associate's degree? 154 weeks minus 88 weeks equals 66 weeks left. How much of your VA educational benefits would you have after you do all your GEs and you're transfer ready? Again, 154 weeks minus 88 weeks of entitlement equals 66 weeks left. And this is the big deal. This is the ones for the students who are going off to transfer, or just the students who started off at a university and went all the way. In order to graduate with a BA or a BS, it's 154 weeks of entitlement minus 160 weeks of actual entitlement use, meaning that you're coming out 6 weeks deficient. Now, there are problems with this scenario, besides the very obvious that you do not have enough to transfer to a four-year university and get a four-year degree, or start at a four-year university and get a four-year degree. There is one very large issue with this. So here's the problem with the past couple of screens. What we listed there were the minimum qualifications, or rather the minimum requirements in order to receive an associate's degree or be transfer ready or to just get a bachelor's degree. That goes into the assumption that a student tests into English college ready proficiency, math college ready proficiency, and reading proficiency. It also assumes that a student isn't taking any type of extracurricular courses and that they never fail a class. Now, the majority of our students at Long Beach City College do not test into college ready courses. The majority of our students test into fundamentals of English, which is one level prior to being college ready, elementary algebra, which is 2 levels prior to being college ready, and college reading proficiency, which is actually 1 level prior to being college ready. On average, the student at Long Beach City College who is utilizing a VA educational benefit needs to take an additional 18 units in order to reach their educational goal. So that means it takes our students on average 83 units to get an associate's degree or be transfer ready. And overall, if they're starting here, it would take them 138 units to attain a bachelor's degree. And here are our results. Now, in the longer version of this presentation, I actually go through every single explanation as to what this chart means. Hopefully you can read it. Hopefully I made it in such a way that it makes sense to you. But here's where it breaks down to. Even in the idealized world, if you're planning on getting your bachelor's degree, you're going to be 6 weeks deficient. If you're planning on getting your associate's degree and your bachelor's degree, you're going to be 33 weeks deficient. On average, it's even worse than that. The average student who has to take 1 or 2 levels of remedial English, math, or reading, when they're done with their bachelor's degree, they'll be 30 weeks deficient, and if they plan on getting their associate's and bachelor's degree, they'll actually be 57 weeks deficient. So what do we do about this? Okay, so here's where we actually talk about stretching your benefits. Now, one of the things we recommend students do is to simply not certify courses in winter and summer. Take courses in winter and summer, but don't certify them. At the community college level, it's significantly less expensive to go to college here than it does to go to a CSU, UC private school. A winter term costs approximately $300. A summer term costs approximately $400, possibly less depending on the number of units you take. So if you plan accordingly, you can afford to do so. On top of that, at our community college in our state, along with many other states, there is fee waivers as granted by your financial need. Now, right now, if you can't afford to pay the tuition in winter and summer, you can apply for financial aid. 75% of our student veterans are utilizing the financial aid or BOG fee waiver. The BOG fee waiver pays for the tuition and fees, doesn't pay for anything else, and then financial aid has Pell Grants. Now, surprise, surprise, 5%. The other 25%, 5% don't qualify. The other 20% just don't apply, which is a shame because, like I said, if you utilize financial aid and you save up your money,
then you can actually save time by simply taking classes in winter and summer, but not certifying that time.
Okay, so skipping the math, these are the results for not certifying winter and summer. The second to last column shows if you don't certify winter or summer for the entire time that you are in community college or for university. And as you can see here, you have time left over if you're going to get a bachelor's degree, or even if you're going to get an associate's degree and a bachelor's degree. Now, this is going to be kind of difficult when you transfer to a four-year university if that's your goal. Most of the time, students do need to certify winter and summer, but if you notice, if you only not certify winter and summer at a community college and then certify winter and summer at a university, you can still get your bachelor's degree. You'll actually be balanced. If you choose to get your associate's degree and your bachelor's degree, you'll still be 19 weeks deficient. Still not as bad as before.
Okay, so here's the other recommendation. I'm going to skip all the math. I'm just going to show you the results because, again, honestly, the math is kind of boring, but you need to know the reality of the numbers. So the other recommendation that we give to students is that if you feel that you can handle it, take more than 12 units. And this is what we mean. You're full-time at 12 units for a 16-week course, but you're also full-time if you're 15 units. You're also full-time if you're 18 units. It can feel very overwhelming. And so you have to be aware of that. We don't recommend overloading on winter and summer. That will seriously just stress you out and burn you out too quickly. So if you want to pace yourself, but still overload yourself, you may want to consider these types of scenarios. And again, the second and third column show what it's like if you take 15 units in the fall, 15 units in the spring. When you get your associate's degree or your transfer ready, you have used 94 units and you have 60 weeks left. Now, if you transfer and you continue to do this, to get your bachelor's degree, you'll have used it all, but you'll be 2 weeks deficient, which is, again, significantly better. If you get your associate's degree and transfer, you'll end up with 38 weeks left. And ultimately, when you get your bachelor's degree, you'll be 24 weeks deficient. Again, it's a semester and a half that you'll be deficient. If you instead choose to take 18 units in the fall and 18 units in the spring, you'll only have used 81 weeks at a community college in order to get an associate's degree or be transfer ready, meaning that you'll have 73 weeks going into 73 weeks going into the actual university, at university level. If you were to do this all the way through, you'll have only used 135 weeks, meaning that you'll have 19 weeks left over to do whatever you want with, to get a master's degree, to get a PhD, whatever you choose to do. If you're going to get an associate's degree and also transfer, you will have used 101 weeks and have 53 weeks left, which means that ultimately when you get your bachelor's degree, you'll only be 1 week deficient, which is great. That's probably one of the better ways to go if you're going to be getting the associate's degree and bachelor's degree. But again, this is a very, very difficult thing to do. You have to be on top of it. You have to be a 3.25 student who knows how to study, who knows how to handle a large workload. You have to keep in mind that you have to keep your GPA up. You need to do nothing but study. You need to do nothing but study, essentially. This is the only real way that it's going to work. All your free time is dedicated to your studies. And if you feel that you can do this, if you feel that it's worthwhile, you'll be able to essentially utilize your educational benefits in the appropriate amount of time. And you'll also be able to knock out your degrees faster than typically allowed. And finally, we have our last recommendation. Now, our last recommendation is actually the one we endorse the most. It has been the most successful one. It has been the one that works the best, and it has been the one that is probably the most realistic to do. Now, the last recommendation would be to just do a partial certification. You have the ability to take an X number of units and to tell your certifying official that you actually want less units certified. Now, in order to tell the certifying official, you don't only have to verbally tell them or email them or what have you. You actually have to have something in writing, preferably an affidavit indicating that you want to certify less units. So if you can see in the second and third column, in that scenario, a student is full-time, but they are electing to only be certified 3/4 time. So it means that they are only being certified for 9 units. They are only being paid for 9 units. and essentially their tuition and fees for Chapter 33 are only being paid, 3/4 of the way. This is possible easily at a community college, not necessarily so at a Cal State or a UC or a state college or a private college. In fact, this is probably impossible to do at a private college. However, this is still something viable to do at a community college and UC, CSU, or state college in general. Second and third column, again, 12 units, 3/4 time. When you are done receiving your associate's degree or transfer ready, you'll have used 83 weeks, and you'll have 71 weeks left, which means that ultimately when you get your bachelor's degree, if you continue to do this, at the university level, you'll have 26 weeks left. If you get your associates and are ready to transfer, you'll have 51 weeks left. It is only until you get to your bachelor's degree that you'll be 4 weeks deficient. Now, even if you transfer doing this methodology and then stop doing it once you transfer, it still works out for you. It's still as long as you're doing 3/4 certification at the community college, it still works in your favor. It's still possible for you to do so fairly easily. Now, if you are planning on taking full load and only be certified for half time, it works out more in your favor. As you can see, when you get your associate's degree or your transfer ready, you have 98 weeks left, and ultimately when you do your bachelor's degree, you'll have 68 weeks left, and so on and so forth down the chart. The only problem with that is that monetarily speaking, it becomes much more difficult for you. So that hasn't really occurred very often. There's very few people who choose to do so. More people choose to do 12 units and only be certified 3/4 time. Now, this doesn't preclude that a student has to do this for 12 units. You could technically be enrolled in 9 units and then be certified only for 6 of them, so that you're only certified for half time, or 7 units depending on what chapter you're on, because the different chapters have different qualifications for half time. But since everything is proportionally speaking, what we're discussing is only being certified for a fraction of what you're actually taking. So it qualifies for anything regardless of whether we're talking about full-time, 3/4 time, half-time, so forth.
This slide is to supplement the previous one. One of the issues with doing partial certification is that you're losing money. I mean, you're using less time, but you're losing money. So there are methods for supplementing that income. I'm going to go through this really fast. For further analysis, you should go refer to your financial aid department or your VA work study certifying official. You may be eligible for financial aid. The Pell Grant, if you are a full-time student, and you are eligible for maximum amount at this point in time, pays $2,800, which is actually a quarter of your BAH. So if you're only certifying 3/4 time, just receiving the Pell Grant would supplement that. You might also be eligible for a Cal Grant. You might also be eligible for federal work study, just depending upon your own financial scenario. Now, if you are certified at least 3/4 time through the VA, you are eligible for VA work study. It's a minimum wage, untaxed though, at a maximum of 25 hours a week. They do work around your schedule. And in California, within the Los Angeles area, you'd have to work about 13 hours a week to make up the loss of a quarter of your BAH. So it's not too shabby. Again, this is abbreviated. You would just want to do your research for yourself. Or you can refer to the other longer presentation.
And that's about it. Now, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to email us at veterans@lbcc.edu. Just as a preclude, just understand that a lot of what we wrote down, the numbers are not 100% accurate. Like, for instance, in the beginning we said 154 weeks and 2 days. We left out a small percentage of error. We understand it doesn't apply to everyone. We understand that not everyone takes 65 units. We understand not everyone takes that additional 18 remedial units to get to their goal, but this is just a general standard that we've used and utilized. We also understand that the Cal Grant changes every year, that you're not necessarily eligible for $2,800 in Pell Grant depending upon your financial and your academic goals. We understand all of that. But if you have any type of specific questions, or even if you have a tip that we can share with our students that might be able to assist them in further enhancing their educational goals, please just feel free to contact us again at veterans@lbcc.edu.